Bacchanal and the Radical get on the way they got on yesterday, we have her on today. And Richard is on the telephone line with me today, Karen, and he'll join us when
Okay.
he gets to his laptop.
We
All
won't, we
right.
won't say, we won't, I won't, you
So good
won't say
afternoon,
anything.
Karen, and welcome.
Richard, good afternoon. Sorry I can't see you, but I'll be happy to see you when you do finally arrive, and I'm sure it won't be too far from now.
Good. So Richard is he's online with us, right? So
Yeah.
Oh, I
Richard.
thought I was Richard I was speaking to. I was speaking nice to Richard. I thought I was talking that nice talk was to Richard.
He's here, you know.
Richard, you heard me?
But
Your
Richard.
boy is breaking up. He breaking up.
Yeah.
so I wanted to say to Daddy Mac. Daddy
Yeah.
Mac, you hear me?
Yeah.
So give me 2 minutes. I'll come in on the laptop now.
Okay. Good.
Look
Great.
out for it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. Karen, so what's up? How you made out
And I
yesterday?
gave you all those compliments I meant for Richard, eh?
Yeah.
Take it. It's okay.
I took all.
Yes.
Yes. The city was on fire yesterday, girl.
Yes.
Bacchanal in the place.
Yeah, and I think if we take it just on the surface level, of course we'd be making a big mistake. Of course, there are all kinds of reasons, like in any unrest you have in a country.
Yeah.
It can portend further unrest. It can be used just as an excuse to get on bad and to take advantage of a situation. I don't know if there was much of what you usually find with unrest is that you usually find them breaking into stores, and I don't think we had much of that. But
Right.
did see, so I didn't see that being used as an excuse, as an which is one of the things people get concerned about. But I did see a lot of anger from. So I was so shocked, when I started seeing videos upon videos being sent. And of course, I think as in any unrest or any situation, there's always going to be some circumstance that will be the straw that broke the camel back. But it certainly is not what broke the camel's back.
Right.
It was the final straw, So when you have your prime minister out of the country now, is he back? I know he went to Suriname. As soon as he came, he was off to Suriname.
Yeah.
And he was out for over a month or something. And I think his message just was not to panic. I'm sorry, I got to laugh. Sorry about that. I don't mean to be disrespectful.
I know.
If I don't panic. In any event, the point is that the leadership that we need, and then the whole issue with the Attorney General. But coming back to what happened yesterday, oftentimes, and which of course concerns me, and I'm looking forward to Richard joining us, is that oftentimes, and that is worldwide, that the real troublemakers or the real persons who are really behind are not the ones that you see on the streets.
Yeah.
They are the ones, they are expressing their own frustration. And they are the ones that are being made the whipping boys, so to speak, of the thing. But it is a reality that I think that the situation is getting out of hand, and people's frustration with the situation in Trinidad and Tobago is reaching to that point. And that is what I mean. I hope I'm wrong, but we don't have a commissioner of police. I don't know if we could say we have an attorney general, although he says he's attorney general. And I don't know if we have a prime minister. Oh, look at Richard. I don't know. We have an AG, we have a prime minister, we have a commissioner of police, we have do we even have an acting commissioner of police? That's very, and all of what's going on is very, very troubling. What was your take on what happened yesterday?
Well, the first thing I would say, the best one in the group that you just called out, I think you may have missed out that person, but he's the best performing one. And yet still he's the one everybody calling on to step down. That's Fitzgerald Hines.
How is he the best performing one?
Well,
Are you being
Karen,
sarcastic? You're being sarcastic because you know what I did? You know, one of the things I like to do, because I actually I did want to pivot for segue to the issue going on in England right now with the current Boris Johnson having two of his most senior ministers resigning. The Chancellor, Sunak, I'm sorry if I'm getting it all muddled up, and Javid, who was his Minister of Health, and of course, prior to that, his deputy chief whip, who started the whole ball in his current iteration ruling about a week ago, that is Pincher. But I wanted to get back to that. But before I do, you said the most efficient of them all, and I am assuming you will be
effective.
Oh gosh, oh sorry. Look at that. No, now I know that we are dealing with some satire here, because what I did is
No, I have talked about among the group you mentioned. You know, you said the Attorney General,
things
Prime Minister,
no.
and the Commissioner of Police, right? In that group, Fitzgerald Hines. I mean, while most of us would like to see him change the ministry because he has become an ambulatory minister, you know. So we expect him to be in the move
what again. What do you mean by ambulatory? I know what it means, but for your viewers,
a mobile minister, one who is on the move. He's never settled anywhere. So we expect soon.
I know you're not going. I know you're not going to beat some gardens in a hurry again, though.
Oh no! Come on! I don't think he has ever returned.
A wise decision on his part.
I mean, come on. Fitzgerald Hines is a nice minister. If I was ever prime minister, I would want to have a Fitzgerald Hines, because a Fitzgerald Hines create openings for you. You see, like now with all the crime out of control and noise, the prime minister will come back and reshuffle the cabinet. You know, he'll change around 2 or 3 of them, and in that package, Fitzy would be one. You understand? He said, okay, I'll have a problem with crime. Look, I'm moving Hines to fix it. I'll put somebody else to get a new personal opportunity. And Hines will know perhaps he had to take that hit. When they interview Hines, he would say, well, I was prepared to step down, you know. I went to the Prime Minister and asked him to demote me. He did that before, you know, you remember? Because he think it was getting out of control and that's not his thing and so on and so on. So sometimes you need a kind of utility minister like Fitzgerald Hines. So, this is what I'm saying. That is what I'm saying. He's the most effective because he is used. He
say he's not responsible, you know. Huh? You know, he said that. I think no. I always like to be accurate about what I say, but I certainly think I read yesterday or the day before that he says he's not responsible for what is, I mean, you know, everybody's holding what the crime that you're seeing here, holding him, he's not responsible. I think he made some statement. I want to think he made it a long time ago, but
I think they replayed that because I heard that. And what he had said also was his job is to give them resources, the police resources. Yeah,
I am so glad he said that. Well, I wanted to talk about the crime stats. Before I go to that, it's something I feel extremely passionate about. And I'm probably going to repeat it a few times because on different shows, because I think it is very unfair. I know that there are a lot of problems with crime in Trinidad, and we can all point fingers at different arms who are not playing their part. But one of the arms for which I will defend because I feel it's extraordinarily unfair to him. Extraordinarily unfair to him is that of the DPP. You know, as a public officer, he's not allowed to come out and give interviews and to say exactly what is going on behind the scenes. But he got an opportunity indirectly to say what has been going on for at least 10 years, because I have actually done some, data research on that. And he mentioned that he's under 50, either under or 50% of the staffing of lawyers for the DPP department. Now, let me just tell you, and my understanding, you see the civil department, again, I'm subject to being corrected, but I had this discussion with someone who's the head of one of those civil departments, maybe about about 3 years ago. And I brought up that same question. I said, you all have any issues with getting? So he says, right now, no, we are fully staffed. I said, so what is the problem with the DPP? I say, if you want a department not to perform, you under-resource them. The only department that is responsible for fighting crime, whether the magistrate, high court, assizes, is the DPP. And the DPP has under 50% of the complement of officers to be able to fight crime. You want to know what is done deliberately? In my view, I've sticking my neck out to say that I think it's deliberate. I'm sticking my neck out to say that I believe it is deliberate, because he can never, ever, ever deal with the unlicensed guns, with the white-collar crime, which people think white-collar and the guns on the street are not related. They are directly related. He could never deal with all the magistrates court in Mayaro, down Toko, down Lucy Rose. He can never deal with it effectively when he's 50% understaffed. So if the government has any say, if the Minister of National Security is saying he has to do his job, give the man staff. Let him have his staff. Give him a proper complement of staff and give him a department. Because when I say when we, because I am a PNM, but when Mr. Manning was in office and he was looking at fighting the drug trade, and be honest, that's what he was trying to deal with the drug trade. And one of the things that we brought up was that so there's nothing, and all of them were in cabinet. No, some of it would have been in cabinet. Knows maybe it was discussed at those cabinet meetings, and we have been discussed otherwise. But one of the things that we intended to do was to make a connection between the banks, giving reports to the central bank. For then, when it goes to the central bank, it goes now from the central bank to the FIU working together with SORT, which is the police arm, and the SORT would then work with a special unit of the DPP that deals with white-collar crime, and people will be trained. I have trained, I'm not going to call his name, but he went to Harvard on a scholarship after law school, and that is what he deals with, money laundering. And he set up a special unit within the DPP office for money laundering, terrorism fighting, and so on. So you make a full circle and not a gunshot fire. That was the intention, to make that full circle, and that has not happened. And one thing your esteemed minister could do, if he's saying his hands are tied, your hands are not tied. Less guns and less cars that they're mashing up, and give the DPP who cannot speak out, give him the staff that he needs.
How much it will, how difficult it is for the government to fully staff the DPP's office?
Well, how difficult it is everything is a question of relativity. How difficult is it for the government to staff it when you work against it, the money that is going in informal trade, whether it is through the money laundering, whether it is through the drug trade, or whether it is through the level of money that has to be put into national security. For example, I was looking at a national budget for some other of the islands. I don't even think they mentioned national security in the budget speech. And I know Barbados, certainly as their top numbers, it's always education and always healthcare. So when you have to put so much funding into national security, it means that the opportunity to develop other areas and to earn foreign exchange and all that goes with it, you are going to get it back in spades, and the sense of security that we all want. But that is, in dollars and cents, I think we are living in a country where people live in fear. So in my view, if you have money to put into the AG's office, if you have enough money to pay whatever salary that you pay to whoever you pay, if you want to deal with crime, number one, it is in your power, Mr. Minister of National Security. It is in your power to take a note to cabinet to tell the cabinet, this is these crime statistics. This is the staffing in DPP. This is how much staff he requires. Get the DPP to give you a report. Don't tell me that you're not going to be able to find that money or borrow that money.
Yeah, I think I asked that question so that together we could accentuate the point as to how simplistic it is to do that which is necessary, knowing how much it means to the people of Trinidad and Tobago to get that part corrected. So to leave it as it is really a shameful thing. If that is what is coming out of the DPP's office, that they are 50% staffed or less, that's terrible, given what is taking place in this country.
He just
in
said
other
it
words,
the other day.
It is as though we left it that way because instead of us taking a serious decision to fight crime, it is more like we have taken a decision to welcome crime.
Absolutely.
And yeah. By not doing that, that is the message we are sending. Yeah.
But you know, in America or anywhere in the world, you will learn when they don't want when they want to frustrate a person or a head of a department, they don't do it directly. You know, they just underfund. Don't provide anybody funding. If you don't have the funding, you can't do it. And
the
so
marching in America tell them not to fund the police.
Right. So but the other thing, and the other thing they do is this. I am not saying funding the DPP and giving a full complement of stuff and then giving a special unit with just training money laundering and white collar crime and send them for a year to do ILM is going to get rid of crime or thing. But it is one of the things that are within your power, within your immediate power to deal with. So don't make it say that, oh, Tesheira said that and all of a sudden crime is going to magically disappear. I never said that. I said that by having a department that is solely responsible for fighting crime at every level in this country, to be so understaffed, anybody with half a brain would know that something is wrong with that, and that that is part and parcel of the problem. I'm not saying it is the only answer, but it's a big part of the problem.
Is it fair to say, if it is operating at 50% staff, then it is actually functioning at 50%?
Yes, and I don't want to call the name of the person, but he wrote it in the paper, but I'm not going to call the name because he didn't tell me to call the name. But I was very proud of the article. Actually, he said it, Botuari. And he wrote an article that was published in The Guardian a few weeks ago. And basically, if I am not misrepresenting him, is that what he was intimating was that what we are seeing as colossal errors and mistakes and faux pas and what we are seeing may be it may not be the faux pas, it may not be the innocent error, it may not be any of that, but it's to keep us in a constant state that after all these years we are unable to find a solution. We keep going around in one circle with so many guns and crime. Maybe that is the unplanning is part of the planning. Now, I hope I did not misrepresent him, but I think that's what he said. But I want to come to your favorite thing. I think that's one of your favorite people. I mean, that? Seriously. Who? I seriously think so, Gary Griffith.
What am I?
I'm serious with you.
I like him as minister and as commissioner of police. I think he was.
You really do that? And not tell me why. I putting you on the hot seat. Why? Let me hear.
Why I think because I saw that he was out there. He was leading the police officers. He wasn't an armchair commissioner. I believe he was always trying different things. And I saw the reaction of the people in effect. And I could tell you when Trinis come out to party, or TNTians, Trinbagonians, and we were in CIC, and Daddy Makatela have made this point over 400 times. And I was in CIC's Carnival all-inclusive party. And then they had
as a past pupil of that
Marshall was performing.
He's from Prez.
All right, right. So a presentation college student was performing the biggest style we have as a local, international M&M. And you know, people don't move away when it's Marshall on stage. But Gary Griffith was passing through the crowd to make
When
sure
was that? What
everything
year
was
was
under
that?
control. That was about just before COVID. Just before COVID, the last carnival we have had, just before COVID. And Gary, so that was in 2000. And Gary Griffith was walking through with several of his officers with him. And
Yeah.
somebody said, make room there for the commissioner. And you know what happened? The entire fete, the people in it turned their back on Marshall and facing Gary Griffith's direction and gave him for about 10 minutes a resounding round of applause, you know. The crowd, you know, I and all had to join in. And Marshall Montano had to stop performing and acknowledge Gary's presence.
So wait, so I'm going to ask you now, as a serious person and an educated man and a person who understands media and understands and can separate hype and all of that, and then get down to the thing. Yes. So your argument in him being the commissioner of police is to deal with the crime that we have in this country, the runaway crime at all different levels, is because of a main consideration for you was the crowd response to him at a carnival fete.
Oh no!
I just want to make sure I understood you.
Let me get clear. No, Karen.
Yeah. I need you really need to get it clear. I am interviewing you.
Hold on, Karen.
So
I like
so
you.
Got that.
No, hold on.
I'm holding on. That's what you said. I didn't. Did I say no? I'm holding on. Holding on.
Yes, all right. It could never be.
That's why. That is why it's.
No, let me say it, Karen. Let me say it. Hold on.
Enemies.
No, right. No, hold on.
Go ahead.
It
could
not have been interpreted or meant in and of itself that I was saying in any way at all, not even remotely close, that it was based on the crowd reaction, that was a part of why I think you should be commissioner. No, the part of that was relevant, let me tell you, that it is very difficult, to please the people of our country. And when
please or fool, or mama guide them. Please or mama guide them.
If that's the case, but here what I do know from what I saw. When it was mamagism or fooling or whatever the people felt, or whether it was
no, that is
leadership, whichever one, the people collectively, Karen, felt that this guy, this guy is worthy of right,
okay.
And that's
and remember, he's not going up to be the prime minister or the police, but he's going up to be what? What does our commission police do?
Lead the police service to fight.
To what purpose? So what is your objective?
To push back crime.
Okay, so right. So let me just say to you,
and serve the people.
So critical features are, if I had to interview somebody for that position, I would want to see what your track record is. And he has the benefit now, unlike many others, of having a track record by which he could be judged. So one of the things I would look at is his track record. Secondly, I would look at if there were any controversies in which he, as being the commissioner of police, found himself embroiled, and how he handled those situations, so that at the end of the day, what is happening with Boris Johnson in England right now, which is not that he didn't handle Brexit well, not that he didn't handle COVID-19 well, a lack of integrity, trust, and honesty. So what you want, of course, is the people to have confidence, trust, and in what you say. So I think those are very and good leadership skills. So let me start by looking at one of the most important things I would want to look at. One of the most important things I would look at, because he's always talking about how he has fought back against crime, and the people will tell you that he has been very successful. Well, that's the impression he gives you. He's very, very successful fighting against crime, and he's committed himself to that. But you know, facts are stubborn things. That's the thing about facts. They're just so darn stubborn. So I went to the CSO because they have up to 2020. I couldn't go further than 2020. And they gave us the crime stats. And I only took for the serious crimes. So I would start in 2016 because he became commissioner in August 2018, right?
Yes.
On a 3-year contract. So I would start in 2016, but 2016 follows what was before. Serious crime, when you use serious crime, like things like murder, 11,493 reported. Prosecutions that had begun, 2,743 prosecutions had begun, and how many convicted? 321. So I would say that wasn't a very good job, whoever was commissioner then. Then in 2017, serious crimes, 13,113. Prosecutions begun, not that completed, begun 4,091, better. Convictions, 538. Now, he did start in August 2018. That's when he did start. Serious crimes, 13,445. Prosecutions begun, 4,558. Convictions, 440. And in fact, that year had the highest amount of crimes, both serious, minor, and thing, because all the rest, just as a way of thing, was in the vicinity of 30,000. That year, it went to 42,990, but he was only there in mid-August. Now, he had the whole of 2019. No COVID. No COVID. Whole of 2019. Serious crimes that were committed or reported, 13,179. That's something very different. Prosecution started 3,976, less than the year before. Convictions, 428. And total amount of reported crimes, 39,400 and something. Then I went to 2020, which is when, of course, we know that's when COVID started. We then had the public health regs, where the state of emergency, all the things that would affect grant. So in that year, they had serious crimes, 10,538. Prosecutions begun, 3,472. Convictions, 429. And that is and then that's when it stopped, because we didn't get to 21 or 22. And in fact, though it does not say it, when you go on your own, the highest number of murders committed since the recording of murders in this Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, the second highest was in 2019, when he was Commissioner of Police for the entire year. 538 murders, the second highest number of murders ever recorded in the history of that. So if you telling me that you are a crime fighter and you could fight crime, and you were the Commissioner of Police for a whole year with no COVID, no nothing, and you have the second highest recorded murders in Trinidad and Tobago, then I have to worry about your crime fighting ability. But that's not all, because you must look at facts and don't allow emotion to override you. When Gary came out in the first year, one of the reasons I believe, and I was among them, but I always am a bit of a skeptic, a cynic. I'm a cynical person, maybe being in politics. I think people really took to him. He is very charismatic, very open, outspoken, but that Westmoreland thing, where they blew it up as if they found so much cocaine, when in fact it was a little bit of cocaine that they found, and it was the former minister's stepdaughter. So they say, what? This man's serious. But since then, as far as I am aware, in the 3 years that he was there, every cocaine shipment that they got, he had nothing. His police and his police force, yes, the old people home, made movie, like if he acting in a movie, he went down there and take movie and had whoever it was interviewing him. But as far as I'm aware, the 3 major cocaine busts that they had in Trinidad and Tobago, he nor his police had anything to do with it. One, the one down in Predeco, where the Spanish captain under international law would have gotten himself in trouble. Or else he was about to leave, he see a black plastic bag tied to the back of the thing. he know he in trouble if he think. Immediately got the customs and the police had nothing to do with it. Second one was when the Americans got the COVID shipment, the cocaine shipment out at sea, left Trinidad. And the other one was when this officer in Tobago saw a suitcase of nobody claiming, and she called the police officers, and then discovered it. None of the cocaine shipments that is a basic problem in this country, I cannot say that Gary Griffith was behind it. And let me go on, because your thing was a carnival fete, right? No, I am going to tell you. No, your own was the carnival. I know you used it to show his popularity, and I'm showing you that is why leaders, you have to be careful to keep what God gave you, a critical mind, and be able to tell, let me look at the facts. Do you know that the United States, as soon as he came into office, these are facts. As soon as he came into office in September or November 2018, he dropped SAUTT and formed SORT. You know that, right? Sort his own, of his own, right, and his own special unit, right. Then it finally came out, the acting commissioner of police, or whatever he called him, said they had to drop the name, and finally they had to admit that one of the main reasons they dropped the name is because the United States said they're not going to fund SORT. And one of the reasons, according to what was reported in the papers, they weren't going to fund SORT because one of the senior members of SORT, I don't know, I always mix up the two, Hernandez and another one, both of them, I mix them both up. One was about to retire on one thing. The two gentlemen that fell off the chair and hit their head and died. And then they had the second autopsy, which showed that was not true. That is not how it happened. And that is why the United States said that they are not funding SORT. The same Gary Griffith was the one, you may not remember because I track all of this. So when you tell me about the carnival fete, I telling you facts, right? The carnival, when this guy, the deputy commissioner of police, he was near retirement, and FIU suspicious transactions. They noted that he had deposited just under 50,000 in about 21 RBL accounts in his personal account, amounting to 1.8 million. And Gary Griffith said that he investigated it and that he was satisfied that no wrongdoing. It was his, whenever he went out the country, this guy would act, and he was near retirement anyhow. He said, no, I investigated it and I'm satisfied there was no wrongdoing. Well, guess who went and investigated? The PCA. And the PCA investigated and found that there was wrongdoing. And they sent the file to the DPP. He had a meeting. And in the meeting with the press, they asked him if he had sent his file now, he has completed it now, to the DPP. In the press and conference, he said yes. 2 or 3 days later, the DPP came out and said he had received no file from the Commissioner of Police. You are going to put your confidence in someone with that track record because they went in a fete and everybody turned around and then, so now you understand why. Now you understand why despots, the most evil men, and I'm not saying he's evil, by the way, because I don't know him to be evil, though he's very charismatic. But my point I'm trying to make is, now you understand why the most unlikely anti-heroes are able to reach to the top, and you look and say, how did that happen? They have charisma, they know how to handle their media, and they bedazzle people with all kind of talk, and they don't look at the facts. And if those facts which I gave, those statements which I gave are true, and they are all correct, they are all correct. The thing with the sort is correct. The 2019, the highest, second highest, 2008 was the highest. I was in government then. I didn't really want to see, but true, let me be transparent. if I am to look at that track record, and everybody knows that the drugs coming through the Southwest Peninsula. Everybody knows that. I heard Colin Imbert when we were in opposition. I wasn't in government then, and Kamala called us a part of state emergency. I went to the Hansard and I saw in the Hansard him saying that the drugs are coming to the Southwest Peninsula. Bloomberg, while he's there, Bloomberg did an article. Go and look it up yourself. And you know what Bloomberg said about down south, Los Heroes, down there? He said, down there, you see the trade in drugs and guns going on like nobody's business. A tiny little what you call it, for immigration. I think they close it down. They close it down, and a custom boat, a lonely little custom boat outside in the water with, I think, one lone custom officer. In other words, Bloomberg said it was obvious what was going on in Southwest Trinidad. So you do not tell me about him being a crime fighter. Do not tell me that.
All right, so let me say this.
You could quote 100 facts. And I think that's how people get fooled, and that's how people find themselves in trouble, and then they hold in their head and say, oh my God, what did I do?
All right. What could I say? Nice presentation.
What you say? No, what you going to say? I want to know what you
let me say. No, let me say that. I see. I gave you. I sat down. I listened.
Yeah, true.
All right. Right. Let me. Yes. Let me tell it all, Karen. Now, nice presentation. I enjoyed, and I would say this now. You need to continue with your presentation, though. You can't put a full stop there. You said you only looked at serious crime, yeah? What it has been since Gary Griffith left?
No, when it came up at the end, this is what happened. When I added up total, because I wanted to look more like at the murder and robbery and so on. So in the CSO, they had serious, then they had 3 categories, and then they had minor, and then they totaled it up. So in 2018, it was the highest. No, I say I give him a blind because he wasn't commissioner.
I know when he started in August, but what I'm saying is
it was 42,990.
What year he left, Karen?
In the year of COVID and the year of public health regulations and period at least of 6 months.
2020. That's 2021.
He left. When did the COVID restrictions start? March 2021.
No,
right?
The restrictions start March 2020.
Well, look, so you make him even look worse, because that is why the serious crimes dropped from 13,000 to 10,000 because everybody lock up and home. When you want, let me ask you something. If you are a politician, leader of a country, and you have conflicts in your country, you have a what you call it? Yes, you have conflict within the country. What are the things that you do? You go on. I'm talking to myself.
Rachel?
Look at you, and you just walk out on me, you know.
No, something was happening.
That's the first time a man ever doing that.
No, you know, I will never walk out in your car and come on. I want to make sure I have a roof over my head.
Okay. What I want to say is, when anytime a country, whether it's Latin America, Africa, any country in thing, they're having civil unrest in their country, number one thing you do is you call a state of emergency. Why? Because it's a way of controlling crime. So it's not really fair if you're doing if you were a scientist or anything. So if you were to say what factors could have impacted on the growing of the crime, and if you cannot not say that the public health regulations with all its restrictions and the state of emergency, which is one reason you call it, would not have impacted on the drop in crime. But when it comes to 2019, there was no COVID. He was in for the whole year. And there's nothing to stop him from performing well because he was there since August. And in that year, he had the second highest level of murders in the country.
You are very eloquent, and you, with all admiration, you got that point across to our listeners quite richly, fully. The part that I'm asking though is, if he left in 2021, what the CSO is saying about the figures thereafter, serious crime.
Right, they didn't. That's, and that's one of the big criticisms, of course, of CSO. You can't manage what you do with measure. And that's one of the things. Bottom line is the CSO did not have anything for 2021. Well, but I would think
Karen,
2021 would be about the same.
Yeah, all right, no, you see, I like to go with data. You're my data-driven person, so I wouldn't go to what I think about. I like to speak on the basis of data. If we don't have it, Karen, then we don't have it. So the information,
so we do it what we have.
Right? No. Sometimes you have to use the teeth you have, and what you spoke about.
Go to the dentist. Go to the dentist and get some dentures.
Karen, we can't go into the future with what we don't have. So I mean, come on. So what I want to tell you is this: while there was a slight increase, if you look at the figures, you talk 12,000 something, 13,000 serious crimes. Look at it. So you had a small increase in crime. But what you have to look at in that data, Karen, is what the trajectory was over the period. Clearly, there was a constant increase, which means, Karen, is that crime was on the increase. In other words, had Gary Griffin not been there, it could have been worse. You might have had one period of a very small fluctuation, and that would have been too small to conclude a fluctuation. But you'd have, from your figures that you gave there was only one time it decreased slightly, but then it flared back up, Karen. So I'm saying,
but you see how I like to be kind? You see how I like to be kind?
Yes.
2016, it was 11,493.
2015,
it was 11,135.
That was fair. 2.5 years before, that was fair. And you went 2.5 years.
But you could imagine if I went back further. Listen, I am not the one that going around saying that I am the crime fighter and I reduce crime, I am not going around the country telling people how I fight crime and reduce crime, I'm not going around saying that,
You know what? I'll pause so you can continue looking side to side. It's a very good look. I like it, so it don't make sense to interfere with it, Karen. So I give way so that I could nourish my eyes fully.
That is a nice. You could give a nice. That's what my father will call that. My father will call that. He said they have pecan and pecan. Pecan is not. Pecan is not really thing, but pecan is giving you a real thing. Right? But
I hope mine is the latter, the pecan, because if that's the real thing, then
it don't matter. Right. You're losing the argument. That's what I tell you.
I spoke the truth. And that's all that matters to me.
You have not spoken anything. All you talk about the carnival fact with Marshall Montano.
No, Karen, I went beyond that to ask you what was the trajectory and the figures the CSO going forward. So that could inform us, Karen. That could inform us. Because here what you needed to know. If you had that data today, that would have told us after Gary left, someone else came in and it started going downwards. So then we could say perhaps the increase that Gary met, although it was a slight increase, it kept on moving upwards incrementally, we could say that movement upwards continued because of Gary's poor performance. But that wasn't the case. We have not gone beyond. We need that to adequately inform us as to what actually transpired. And next thing you had to look at, Karen, I heard the Police Service Commission, when they were going I do the FUL. Come on, you're very skillful in derailing me. When you're ready.
Sorry, I don't know about it. I forgot about the FUL.
Okay, all right. No, but the Police Service Commission, they said when people were resigning that the data supported Gary as the best guy for the job. What data they were looking at? No, I am not. Well, I wasn't there. What data were they referring to, Karen?
You ever heard statistics? What fat lies and damn whatever it is? Whatever I want you to think, I will frame my questions. But listen, this is the point I make, because if I forgot all about the FUL, right in the back, and I'll be like, well, I'm not going to go through it. I'm not going to go through the FUL. But you know what I'm saying? This is my point. Okay, this is my point. I used the data. I went on CSO and they had put it into a tranche of 2015 to 2020. So I used their data. Okay, so that is why I have 2015. That's why it ended up there. But the purpose of that was this, and hear me clearly. I, Karen Nunez Tesheira, I am not going around the country to all and sundry to tell the people of this country that I am the best crime fighter the country ever had. Because when I was made commissioner of police, the murder rate dropped by 20%. The deaths dropped by something when you look at it. And even I'm talking outside of COVID, when I was commissioner of police, was so successful that the US said, you cannot say that. He's going on a PR job. All I am doing and all I am wondering, I do not dislike Gary Griffith. I have nothing against Gary Griffith. And that is what is good about these discussions when things are not personal, because it is definitely not personal with me. It maybe it's a lawyer in me. I do not know. But what I will say is that I have a duty to your listeners, and it seems now to you. It seems now on you the duty now that they must be able to pick sense from nonsense. They must be able to put it into two rows and say, is he a good husband or is he a good sweet man? Is he a good, in other words, and what is the job he's applying for? Applying for job of husband? Maybe not. Applying for job as a sweet man? And the other way around, he might be applying for the other way around, and they will have all the facts. All I did for you was I just said that he is going around saying how wonderful he was in his job, and all I am reminding your public is the facts. And when they have the facts, and if they are satisfied that those facts are true, and if they don't not sorry, they can go and look it up themselves. And if knowing all that I have said, they still prepared, well, we get the government that we deserve.
Now, Karen, here's the good news.
That we deserve.
Here's the good news, because I do have a duty here to you. Here's the good news. I want to tell you that I'm very happy that you are not the person who put the CSO figures together, because we don't know who did it. No, I'm happy because I don't know that we could hold on, Karen, the methodology that they use for quite some time. That has always been in question. You know that. But I don't want to go down that road. But here why I needed more information, Karen, also. Because you have to now look at the rate of new persons joining criminal activities and compare that to the rate before. That could assist you to tell you if more people were getting involved in criminal activities, and as a result, during that period, if managing crime as a commissioner would have been more challenging than it used to be. We need all that information so we could be adequately informed about what we need to be informed about, so that we could take the best informed decisions and discuss it here, so our listeners could, generally, they appreciate what they're hearing, because you have done a fantastic job with the data you have. But the data could be drilled down into a little further. And what would have been helpful in this regard would have been to get some more. The next thing we need to look at, while 1 year, Gary might have been the commissioner when you had the second highest in murders. What happened to the other years? There was significant.
You only had 1 more year. You didn't have long again. It's 3 years.
The whole law is 3 years. Okay, so there are 2 other years. If it's 3 years,
and guess
years.
what? Public.
What happened to the other 2 years?
COVID and public health and state of emergency.
We could say that, but we had to go with the data, because the data wouldn't tell you.
Hold
on. The data wouldn't tell you purely. You and I know COVID would have impeded the criminal activities that the criminals would have wanted to enter into. We know that. But let's go with the figures as they are. They were down. All right. Let us assume that. Give way to that. We can't do that.
Richard, I can't believe you're telling me that. Richard.
No, let me finish there. I tell you very.
I'm going to start to swing my head back and forth again,
But I give way. I give way instantly. Come on. You may as well continue. Because tell us a very nice look, Karen. I give way to that. I prefer that than the issue we're dealing with. I have no problem.
Go ahead.
So I'm saying we had to look at it in its entirety. And we have to look at what informed Gary for him to be all over the place saying he drove crime downwards, which means he was seeing something in the numbers that informed him he did an excellent job. What was he seeing?
You know what, it may be, and I don't have anything against him, and this is the truth. I do not. I think he may be suffering from something that they call narcissism. I think Trump suffers from it too. Up to now, he can't believe he lost the elections. But anyhow, the only reason I brought that up,
after what I saw, he wanted to lead the armed people into the
I
believe that is fully
wait. And listen, and the amount of lies Trump tells, and people believe him because he said it. You understand? All I will say is this: I have nothing against Guy.
You have not come across at all as being biased to Mr. Griffith.
No. I am not. But he definitely should not be.
Karen. You are not like that. You are not.
But he shouldn't be the commissioner of police, because to me, what I want from a commissioner of police, and that is going back to what happened yesterday. Yesterday is symptomatic of an underlying problem. You know, if you study history or you do political science, which I only did at A levels, but you know, I always had an interest in it because you're really studying human nature, you know. And one thing you know about history and political science is, regardless of the country, if you put certain things in place or out of place, so that there will be a reaction. You can anticipate a reaction. So if people are out of jobs, if people don't have food to feed their children, to feed themselves, if they are homeless, people get angry, they get frustrated, and the same person who would have put up with a lot of these kinds of failings would probably turn a blind eye to them if before they could get a nice meal, go down and eat a nice meal now and go down to Arapita Avenue, and they could, let go, get rid of some of their anxiety. But what happens to people, and that's the world over, when they reach a tipping point, where they see no sense of hopelessness, where they feel they're being taken for granted, where they feel that they're being fooled and used, because when they look at this, they say, but wait, we're not going anywhere. And what is this government doing to advance my cause? What are the government doing to help me to come out of this? When people reach that sort of level of frustration, you can't turn your blind eye to it. We cannot turn our blind eye to it. We must understand it is a cry. It may not be the kind of cry, but maybe it's a cry that the only time, unfortunately, politicians listen to. I'm not talking in Trinidad, I'm talking about world over. The one thing a government does not want to see on the streets are people marching. One thing they do not want to see is any public display of negative response to their governing. They do not want, they will do anything. And that's not Trinidad, that's any government. So what I'm saying is we need, rather than to talk about how many tires they burnt and who came from Laventil and who came from Mova, and two of them that they killed, and they have rights to say that. PC guilt. They were looking after a man who didn't even have a gun, and telling the acting, according, you can't even believe what they say now. That they said they told the acting commission police that they lied to him and told him this guy had shot PC Gills when the spent bullet was found, and there's proven beyond a doubt it was a police shell. So they could have killed an honest man, the same police, and that is not 2 years ago, that's just a few months ago. So we are looking at a country where there is a lack of trust. If these people didn't take videos off of their cameras for you to see, I am not giving them right or wrong, I am telling you that you cannot ignore the situation, and you have to address the situation because it is not going to go away. And you are getting an opportunity to see the level of frustration that is coming from the man in the street who feels that he is being ignored, and that the only time you take any interest in him is when he starts to get on. And unfortunately, there are a lot of unscrupulous politicians, and I say they're unscrupulous because they sit behind, like the puppet masters that they are, make sure their face is not there, but encourage all of the comments and bacchanal in order to create confusion in the country. So it's not as though these things just happen like that. The politicians, I am sure, I don't know for sure. When I say that, I'm saying that from, common sense. And so we have to look and see what is it that this government is not doing. And before, I know you say Monday is Karen Day, but Tuesday is Karen Day too, because this is what I have to say. You know what I have to say?
It's Karen's Day. It is Karen's
But
Day.
no, you know what I have to say, and I'm being very, I talk straight, and I hope that people know that I have no cocoa in the what I have cocoa in the what is it? So I do have to look out for rain. I have no cocoa in the sun, right? Yeah. And that's the problem with me, because a long time they would have shut me down. Long time they would have dealt with me. You don't notice they have not dealt with me? Because they have nothing to deal with me.
Because your listeners must not. Karen, because you are clean. Because you
that
are
is
clean.
The problem. That is your listeners must understand that. Many people have to shut up because they need the contract. I'm not against them for that. They have children to see about. They think I'm not going to be against anybody. I know what happens when you don't in the out of politics.
I have requested nothing openly from the government.
And that is why I want your listeners to understand.
That is why we are able to
we not you are, but we. Okay, we. Yes. That's why we are able to speak so openly, because I can assure you, if they had something on me, I would have shut up my mouth long time, or they would have dealt with me long time. Maybe I might have something on them that they don't want me to see, because I could tell you, if they push me, I will say it and I will have the proof. Not with the talk I give in St. Vincent. I talk about something else. I talk about what other matters. So what I was going to tell you is this.
Save some of it, Karen. Save some of it.
I'm never going. I have it saving since 2010. I will never bring it out. And that is why some of them in that same cabinet stay as far as possible away from me, because they know that I know and I have the proof.
Right.
That is why. And I'm saying that. You think I could say that on your show if there wasn't truth in it? I'd have to be crazy.
I believe you, Karen. I want to say this again. I believe
not only you. Your viewers, your listeners believe me, because
they believe you too.
Yeah, of course. Because why? How could I say that? How can they have the power of the state at their disposal? I want nothing from them. But this is the point I was making. You saw how the Chancellor, who's like the Minister of Finance in England, just resigned. You know that, right? You know that?
Yeah.
You already know that, or you've seen that?
Well, it depends on what knowing is, not in its entirety, but I have some.
Okay, you have heard whispers. He and the Minister of Health, Savage, anyway, as a Muslim name, and Sushi, who's so good looking, I must say, which has nothing to do with his ability, but I just have to say he's quite a good looking man, by the way. But in any event, that has nothing to do with it. But the Pincher, who was the deputy chief whip, he's gay, and people are entitled to be as gay as they want. But what you're not entitled to do is impose your gayness or abuse your power, all right, over persons unwarranted and unsolicited, and use it, and that is what he had been doing for years. Anyway, the long and short of it is this. I listened to BBC today for about 2 hours. Do you know what is the reason that they said that Boris Johnson should resign? And this is, it was amazing to hear the reason. And they were quite serious. They said, listen, he did a great job with Brexit. At the end of the day, he did a good job with COVID-19, but people cannot trust him. They cannot trust in what he says. They don't have confidence in what he says. They have to think twice that his ministers, and in fact, that is what the Minister of Health said. He said he can no longer be part of this. He can't be anybody. So what they find, they said, and so the commentator was asking, but he's done a good job in so many other ways. Okay, so he may not have told the truth about Pincher, knowing that Pincher was pinching others for quite some time, and yet he made him Minister of Housing for a period of time. Okay, he said, no, that's not the point. The point is a people must have trust. A people must have confidence in their government. When the Prime Minister speaks, they must not question what he is saying. And when you have to go back to the parties that he was having at Christmas and pretending they were not parties, and then the Pincher incident where he said he never knew that Pincher was so behaved like in that manner, and sent out his junior ministers to lie on his blog, and they usually actually would lie. At the end of the day, they said, no, he cannot stay because you cannot trust him. You cannot trust his word. And we have in Trinidad a situation where a prime minister does not want to answer a simple question about Reggie Amor and want to say to the people of Trinidad, like if we didn't go to school, Mr. Manning used to always say that, like if we didn't go to school, didn't feel like we didn't go to school, saying that the AG recused himself. He did not recuse himself. He was disqualified. And I'm sure the Prime Minister, pick up his thesaurus, will never see the word disqualify and recusal as a synonym. They might be, what is it?
No, they are not. They are not.
Yeah, well, right. Okay. But he said that he recused himself. When the thing is there that, and then secondly, your AG said that he was ready to explain his mistake he made about being a junior and thing, and he sat down in his room in Europe by the telephone. When they got a transcript, there was no indication that any effort was made for him to do that. No indication of that at all. Then you get today or yesterday the judgment of the court, which of course was on the issue with Kwaitang and others and apparent bias, and the court saying that both the Court of Appeal and High Court got it wrong, and that both the AG, who was then under Mr. Manning's time, the Chief Justice, who was then Sharma at the time, and the Chief Magistrate, Shuban McNichols, who is deceased, he said that he was hopelessly compromised. And he said that there was apparent bias in their decision. Now, you have a Prime Minister of the PNM, because you're not the Prime Minister of the RAC and the QRC, and unless you want to distance yourself from certain ministers, unless that's what you want to do. But you owe a duty before you spend nearly a whole month in California. You don't think you have a right to tell the people something more than what you said? As if you're minding your business. In my business, we have no right to be asking you them personal questions. And then you come through Trinidad, fly out, and then take off behind one of the
journalists
on the issue of land. Is it land? What's it called? You know what it is I'm talking about?
This is the one in Tobago you're talking about?
Yes, was it land? Was it called land something?
Landate or something like that.
Landate. But what people don't know, and I am subject to be corrected, but what people do not know is what the Prime Minister won on was not a substantive issue of whether or not material was moved from A point to B point. You know, that was never litigated. That was not
the issue before the court.
So and as we speak today, it has yet to be litigated whether that happened. So what was litigated was a procedural issue as to the manner in which the Integrity Commission, I think, went about it with sending it to the DPP or not.
And it had an absence of natural justice attached
to
it.
But what I'm saying is that had nothing to do with the substantial matter. It had everything to do with the
removing of material from one place to the next.
That has never been litigated.
That has not been tested so far.
Ever. No court has ever heard that matter. So what did the Prime Minister do? Which I find reminds me of what they're saying about in Boris Johnson, lack of trust and so on. What he did, he buffed up not rebuked him. He buffed up the journalists, talk all about, and by the way, the Express wrote that the headline was not Raleigh appears in court. It was similar to that, but it was not thing. But I will say, in all fairness, it has the same impact. I would say, even if the wording was different, I would say to the Prime Minister's thing, it had the same impact. But instead of answering the due diligence question, it's the same thing happening with Boris Johnson. Did you know that Mr. Pincher interfered with men unsolicited before you appointed him deputy chief whip and then minister of housing? Did you know before? And he said, no, he did not. Now, the prime minister did not say he did not know. What the prime minister say, he's not answering him. He does not answer him.
And that's not good enough.
Because why you don't, and then notice him, be very careful. Mr. Prime Minister, you have to excuse me, but it's a lawyer in me. It is a lawyer in me. When the issue of whether there was any monies in any account, he said, there is no account in the United States standing in my name. I think I'm correct. I am quoting him correctly.
Yeah.
So you can
no money
standing in his name.
Yeah.
You got that? In his
I got
name.
that. None
right.
standing in his name. So the inference there could be some standing, but not in my name.
Not in other words, I would say, if I were he, none standing in my name, in a company in which I am a director, in my wife's name, in any way, form or fashion, I have that is something. So when
when someone speaks like that, it doesn't mean what they're discussing doesn't exist, And that's the point you're making.
Well, the bigger point I'm making is that in England right now, they expect Boris Johnson to tender his resignation based on the fact that he is a man who indulges in obfuscation. His word is one which one doesn't feel that one can put the trust and confidence in. And when we look at the issue with Cummings, when we look at the resignation of Dennis Morrison with the Paria issue, when we look at the issue regarding the trade one closure,
the chairman of the commission,
yes, and then yes, and when we look at the roundabout, around and around in circles, we went with trade and LNG one, and then now when it comes with the AG, when he said he was not disqualified, he was recused, and then when he's asked if he did a due diligence, he will not answer, but he buffed instead. And when he asked about any money, he says, all I will say is I have no account standing in my name. Well, I wish, when all of that, I would say, when I put all of those factors together, they do not encourage one to have the trust and confidence in the Prime Minister. Of course, now the ladies of the People's National Movement, of which I am a member and have never left as a member, may now wish to write me another thing, which I will also just delete because. But once you write me on something that I say is wrong, I am prepared to be corrected. I am prepared to be corrected on anything that I say that is not correct. It is not factual.
Yeah.
Huh?
It is a sad thing in terms of the lack of trust and confidence that people have developed now in this administration. It is true. And if those people want to write to you, that's something I think you know where that is coming from. And some people, because they're in office, they'll do anything to defend it. And they would feel by doing that would, make them tighter with whom they wish to become tighter with, which would be a form of security going forward. That's what they're hoping for. The best security they should strive for is to protect our party's name and to protect what our party represents. And when you reach this place where it is now, where so much, for example, go to the refinery, where they were to give it to the, they came up openly and they're going to give it to the trade union leaders that the Mac knows the name of the company that they were supposed to give it to. Well, and they said this is like a done deal, only we will do this. You remember all of that? And when that was done and the election was over, they just turned it back and say, they said before the election they don't want any money. They could pay after because they're not going to cost a lot of money for it to get going. So they want to leave them, in other words, with enough resources to get running, and they will pay down the road. When they win the election, they came back and say, we're not crazy. How we could give them the thing and then have no money? You understand?
So what is it? Let me give it, Richard. Let me for listeners, because I wanted to get it correct and right. You know, I'm on, at least as best as I can on my understanding.
Karen, you hold yourself to a very high standard. When you deliver it the way you know it, then it has to be right and correct, and I support you. Tell it
no,
to
because
our
no, it's for your viewers. It's your viewers.
Yeah,
what you said was true at Parliament when the Minister of Finance stood up and said that they were giving them a 10-year moratorium on payment. Payment, then all kinds of things in order to make it keep them capable of yes, exactly, of buying the refinery, and all seemed well and good. But in the meantime, the Espinay board was very much against the sale of the refinery, as my understanding is. They felt they should have been restructuring, right? And so on. But the issue was, this was the issue. And that is where I concern, and I am subject to being corrected, as I always say. Just before the elections, I think the elections, maybe a month or so before, I've said this before on your show, so whoever heard me say it, at Vestini, one of the schools in South, the Prime Minister said, "What is the union taking so long for? I am ready to sign on the dotted line." That is what he said about, this is a month or two before the national elections. What are they waiting for? I am ready to sign a dotted line. So then everybody's saying, truth, what are they waiting for? If they got the financing and all of that together. But guess what? We didn't know. And what I have to assume the Prime Minister would have known, and certainly his Minister of Energy had to have known as the line minister, was this, that sometime the year before, I think in June, because I got a copy actually of the document. I actually was given a copy of the document. They were going to borrow money because they needed, what they realized was what the company had put together, Patriots had put together, was not going to be enough in order to bring back the refinery, to working order. So they had to take out some sort of bond or borrowing. But the bond was not to Guaracara or to Patriots or Heritage Refinery. It was to Trinidad Petroleum Holdings Limited. You know who that is? That is Paria, and that is Heritage, and that is Guaracara. And what they said is, if the monies were not paid, they were coming after not Guaracara, not after Patriots, but coming after TTPL, which included Heritage and included Paria. And when they signed it, it was signed. And when that came out in the public domain, which they had to have known it because it was signed months before. So the Prime Minister had to have known that the deal couldn't go through, because he was not going to be prepared to put TTPHL in that situation. So when he said in August, I'm ready to sign on the dotted line, he knew that he could not sign on the dotted line, because that agreement with the bondholders for TTPHL, he was not prepared to put Heritage or Paria in a situation where, if there was a default by Guaracara or by the Patriots, to have to pay that money back. And so long before, when he knew the deal was off. Now, to what extent the union knew, I don't know, because I find they took it I was kind of surprised how they took it so easily. But what I would say is that long before the sign of the dotted line statement was made, they knew that the deal could not go through.
So they were offering to sell the Patriots something that they couldn't sell.
Well, no, they were not prepared to sell because the price was too high, because it would include the holding company, and the holding company would include, it was Trinidad Petroleum Holdings Limited. It would include Heritage, and which would do the exploration and development, and it would include Paria, which is the part that dealt with the purchasing of fuel and so on. So it meant that if things went wrong with Guaracara, the bondholders were going to go after who could pay.
Yes. I think in order to the pocket rule.
And there you go. And I think they will start looking at heritage and Paria first. And the government was not prepared to, but the point about it, they knew that a good while before. And they went along with this so-called, pretense, this mockery, really to the people, making one feel that the deal was a deal done, when in fact they knew that it couldn't go through.
And so then turning around to blame the trade union representatives, those who were running Patriot, I think it is, if that's the name of the company.
Yeah.
The government turning around to make it look as though they didn't have the money and they came short and the government had to pull out on them. That was an additional sort of a deceptive expression, because while they were trying to for being responsible for the deal not going through, by doing that, they knew that they were doubling down, as the Americans would say, simply because they knew from day one they couldn't sell the refinery. And therefore, they were looking for something else now to throw it back on Patriot as the reason why the deal didn't go through.
But you know what I found? Yeah. But you know what I found peculiar, if what I've said to you is correct, is I couldn't understand the response of Patriot to that. Because if in fact what I've said is correct, and that is my very good understanding of what happened, shouldn't they have considered, unless they were in on it themselves, if they knew and they're hoping against hope?
Karen, you know in law there's something known as nervous shock. You know that?
Yes.
Nervous shock.
Yes.
When you see something that happened that you were exposed to, and the sight of it kind of froze you, and people have to actually move you and help you. Those poor union leaders, after they tie their hands behind their back and zip them out during the elections, allow those people to go and win the election so that they can get the refinery. When they realized that they were used so openly, so blatantly, that it was a different form of a shock that stepped in. They were forced. That wasn't easy to get over. Let me tell you, notice they're now fighting back, because they're now shaking off that they're now shaking loose what had them frozen. And I want to tell you, they're going to be very bad.
You cannot teach nervous shock to a class, eh? Right.
No, because I might be shocking the students, but nervous shock is used in a different way, where you see something happening to a loved one or so, like an accident or some kind of thing.
Look at that. Yes. Right. You're in the classroom. Right. The fish wife. You're there with the fish wife.
This context, Karen, I'm saying in this context, try to apply that to this situation, to try to make sense of what they may have been going through, why you may conclude that they find they took it easily. I'm trying to explain what may have happened to them that caused them to react in such a way. Because I felt just as you
should invite one of them on the show, because I would really want to know why
next Monday I'll try to get Mr. Roger on first to get his. You and I will interview him first to hear.
Because I really want to know
and why their reaction was as it was.
How about what were you thinking?
Yes. No, because let me tell you, just before the election, some kind of adjectives were used by some of the union leaders. I don't know, it was too late to reverse the election then. But you know what I mean?
I really want, no, for the country's sake, I really want a light shone on this, because the issue with the refinery, which we're talking about that really, I think the issue with the refinery now is really about refining for the decarbonization and really to produce diesel. And I think it's to produce diesel, which you use for transportation, because that's the big issue with food. Do you know that we import 80% of our food? And do you know I went on a monetary policy for May from Central Bank? So nobody tell me I'm making it up. And I went on that. And do you know that our import bill grew by 20%? And do you know what is part of that import
Karen,
food bill?
Also, Karen, but 80% of our food is the type of food based on want. is not 80% of the food we need. So
exactly.
a lot of it may be classified as
that's what I'm trying to tell you now.
Okay,
I'm now trying to tell you this. This is what I'm trying to tell you now.
Sorry about that.
And Sorry it said, yeah, no, man. Teacher to teacher, man. Oh, God.
All right. Come on.
Classroom. No,
but
all joking aside, so the monetary policy document said that total imports for food, looking for food alone, grew by 20.8% in the last quarter. And you know what is mostly responsible? Who are the ones with is the restaurants? And we know what we're talking about, the fast food, the bars, and the casinos. That is what they said is responsible. And I've also found out, doing my little research as I like to do, I went to the WHO site to say, well, let me see how much money Trinidad really spend on food all the time. So I saw that in 2005, they spent 9% of their budget on food. 2008, 8%. 2010, 11%. 2013, 8%. 2017, 17%. 2020, 19%. You seen a pattern? You seen a pattern?
It was going up like by 1%.
No, but guess when it going up? No, not by a little bit. Yeah. If in 2005, listen, 2005 it was 9%. 2008 it was 8%. 2010 it was 11%. 2013 8%.
So it went back down. So you had a small fluctuation there. Yeah.
Went down. By 2019.
Yeah.
2019 it was 15%. And 2020, 19% of our total. We import over $5 billion of food. And since in the last quarter, we have increased our food import by 20.8%. And it's, for the restaurants and the casinos and the bars. That is what the monetary policy says. So that is another conversation to deal with the little boys in that will getting themselves into what they call civil commotion, and to find a mechanism that we stop sending our cocoa and sugar, I'm being sarcastic, cocoa and sugar to England to make Cadbury chocolates. We need to make our own chocolate and sell it to them.
Yeah, agreed. Because apparently, from what you are saying, we import a lot of brands and chocolates, Cadbury being one of them.
Yeah, but that was an example, huh?
I know.
I like Cadbury, so don't get me in trouble.
So you
Cadbury,
say,
I like Cadbury. I like Cadbury,
You like Cadbury, so what I want to say to list, you know what I'm
saying? No. I'm using it as an example.
I know it was an example, but
you are a very, very dangerous man. I'm going to use, I am going to say Lint.
The producer laughing at me. Come on, Karen. The producer knows me to be a straightforward, decent man, which I am. Now you calling me a dangerous man. Take it easy, Daddy.
Because you say that I am there with Cadbury chocolate. Okay, I like Cadbury, but that is only an example.
I get that.
Sure, I want to ask you, learn people a question based on the Petrochin issue and the refinery issue, and all that. What I'm hearing here now, could that be? They never told us where they are purchasing the fuels that they supply the country with. All right?
No.
Good. Was all that to cover up that, or to keep that in a way that if they had sold to the Patriotic Energies and Technologies Limited, that's the name of the company, the OWT went under, could that have exposed that same method of bringing in the fuels and the kind of way they're doing it in a kind of hideous way where you don't know where it's coming from, you don't know who we're buying it from, we don't know how much they're paying for it. I don't think I ever heard those figures.
We know. I got the figures. $835 million for imported fuel in the last I think if you go to the central bank monetary policy documents, and they will give you the data. But that's a very good point you're making about we don't know where it's coming from. And the fact of the matter is, you're selling oil, you only increase the amount of production of oil by 2%. We don't have natural gas. LNG train 1 closed down. So we're not exporting the amount of energy product, but the prices are higher. But the irony of it is, as we're exporting, we are importing all the refined fuel to the tune of $835 million US.
The people behind that sort of organization, or those people who are responsible for that purchasing and stuff, I don't think they explain that to us in any kind of way that we, the people on the ground, would know.
Maybe we should have them on Paria. Is that who's Paria?
I think
Heritage is.
I think Paria is the one that deals with the oil.
No, the head of Paria. Let them come and tell the people.
Yes.
Let them explain to the people. We don't know. We supposedly educated. We notice us supposedly, educated, and we don't know. So come and explain it, because if you don't, then it makes it look as though you're hiding something, and you may not.
That's right. That's right. Because
and if they have nothing to hide, it should be very easy to explain.
That whole issue what you spoke about with the holding company. If they had gotten rid of the refinery without considering why they're not getting rid of the refinery, why they're not giving it to Patriot, I think something is being hidden there as to who controls the purchasing of the fuels that we are importing, and if it will tie up within that same refining deal that will take away from that sort of activity. In other words, the people who are behind, who are given the authority to bring in these fuels, if they are kept in the dark, I mean, or if they had given it to the OWTU, that would have had to come out in the open. And there were lots of things happening with the Delcy Rodriguez, with ship coming here and nobody can find the ship, and the ship came in and loaded and disappeared and things. I find it's tying up with not giving the refinery to the OWTU, because it would have involved that holding company that has Paria within its grips.
But the holding company for sure would have been liable for any debt of any of the companies, regardless. So they didn't want Paria and the Heritage were going to make money for them, because they were going to make money for them, but it was the refinery, because I don't think many people, they're not building new refineries. What they're doing is opening up old refineries and fixing them, and even then they're being careful. So yes, you have a good point. And that goes to, I'm so glad for your input, because what it really says is that the fact that we are having this discussion means that we don't know what's going on. It has never been explained to people, or maybe we are just don't see. We are bad students. No, we are not.
Daddy Mac is very right, because when it had just started, that question was asked, and they refused to respond to it.
Who didn't refuse?
Members of the cabinet. They talk about, they are assuring the people of Trinidad and Tobago that we'll have no fuel shortage by shutting down the refinery. Remember that?
Yeah.
And that fuel will be here and this and that. So they spoke about it in a kind of wrong robin kind of way, but they never responded to the question, the source. That was the question, where the fuel coming from. In other words, we were technically told, that is not your business. All you should be concerned about is that you're going to have fuel here.
So let me ask you something then. Yeah. Let me ask both of you, what difference would that make? And I'm genuinely asking that. What difference would it make where it comes from?
It would make a difference, I'll tell you, from my thinking, because if they were to share that news with us as to where that fuel is, the source of the fuel is, if they share that with us, then it might serve a bigger explanation for the true reason for shutting down the refinery. Exactly. And that could be very concerning. So you know what? Right. We need to suppress that part of the conversation.
Right.
So that we could kill off the refinery talk. All you need to know is that there will never be a moment when we'll have a fuel shortage. Fuel will be here.
So why is Guaracar? Why is OWTU and the Patriots staying quiet over that? Why are they?
Well, they thought they would have got the refinery, but and that they would have. But you see, based on the question that the Mac asks, that has created a whole new dimension for conversation now.
Right.
The refinery may never be restarted simply because to do so may run contrary to the existing arrangement.
That's what I'm asking. That is where I'm at. Yeah.
In other words, for the existing arrangement to bear fruit and for it to bear fruit in the way in which it may be for some people, the refinery.
Yes, I understand. I understand.
It could be that.
Yeah, but it's not unreasonable.
Yeah, no, it isn't, because there is no, and then they are fronting it again. We want to get the refinery up and going again. We want to get up and going again, and that is just for us to hear. But there's no consistent action that is being taken to suggest meaningfully to the people of this country that they really want to get restarted. They come and give us a name of the people who appear to them to be the preferred person to get it or company, and since then it seemed to slow down again. So I mean,
no response from that company either.
That point, even a Form 6 student could have done a better website. Could have given a Form 6 student to build a website for them.
Yeah, I mean, so and you started by the lack of trust that people,
that's what it is.
That when you put all these things together, could you fault the people for how they reacted in Tobago?
Absolutely.
Could you fault the people for starting to believe and think and react to the government the way they are doing now? It's simply because they believe, listen, we've been disrespected. This government has not been genuine with us. They have not been decent. They have not been telling us what we needed to know. And therefore we don't need to. That's it. That's it. Because there are so many unanswered questions.
So many. Look at the procurement regulations. Yeah. So you know what our answer to that will be, Daddy Mark and Richard. I see we running all the time, but you know what the answer will be? If they want to get vexed with what we say, they have only themselves to blame, because nature abhors a vacuum. That is a Shakespearean saying, and I know that Richard he might be.
Well, that's a full-blown one in literature.
Yeah, but I don't know. It's one of Shakespeare, but it sounds good, right? Yeah. Nature abhors a vacuum.
It didn't mean that I always understood
so
that.
This show has been trying to fill that vacuum as best we can, right? If we are filling the vacuum with the wrong things, we cannot blame us, because you have failed to give us the material with which to fill the vacuum. So we are calling, it's your show, Richard. It's 102, David. This is your show.
No, on a Monday, Karen. This is our show, Karen. It's
not Monday. Today's Tuesday.
No, today.
You did it on Monday for you.
All joking aside, I think what is be helpful to your listeners, if we really want to be of service to our country, I am very serious. If we want to be service to our country, not just be another talk show, okay, part of it is we giving information. But let us go to the persons who are the depositories of that information and let them come and talk, and let us hear what they have to say, and let us see if they will come. And then we can all decide whether or not they are being truthful, transparent, or whether we have a right to be how the British now feel that Boris Johnson should go.
Well, you don't like the party parts, eh? But I'll tell you, with slight humor, Boris should have begun to walk since he had that COVID party. They didn't forget him,
No, they didn't. They
didn't forget him. And you see, now I'm telling you, that little factor, that was a big thing to them. And when you add these other things to that, they've seen a pattern and they say, no, we no longer want to have any more dealings.
Because we can't believe what you say.
That is the same happening in our country today.
Absolutely. If you're telling me that the AG was accused of, and there's things showing he disqualified, and boldface, you're telling us that. And AV drilling, they say to send it to the court, and boldface, you say you're not doing that.
This is like somebody telling you when they call day when you see the moon, and you say it's night when you see the sun. That's what they're trying to tell us. It's there, but they say, no, it's night. You didn't see the sun, it's night.
I'm telling you, that is what is, I am saying to you that if we come to conclusions and we come to it is based on this absence of information. And I think that the government, this government, Boris Johnson has nothing on this government, because if the things that have gone on here and the way that they have treated with us as a population would have happened in UK, say what you will about them British, they would have gone a long time ago. He would have gone a long time ago. And he needs to answer some questions.
They told us this government, when they're looking into Petrotrin again, and with the late Franklin Khan, he was a member of the cabinet then. They told us they had this this largest bullet payment, the petrol train. Remember that?
Yes.
The bullet payment. People trust must head in a different direction. They had this bullet payment, and then the prime minister himself came and kept on talking about it. They have a headache. This bullet payment, they have to meet. If not, we've been serious problems. Remember that? And I was saying on the radio saying before you came on, well, all they have to do is go and refinance it. Why you must maintain the bullet payment if it's out of reach?
Going Malcolm Jones and Mr. Manning, that's what it was. The bullet payment, in my respectful view, had everything to do with the plan, which was a very good plan, and the UNC also tried, and Nikwan also tried. It's all of them trying the same thing, to use the gas to make to convert it, to decarbonize it, to diesel, to use it for transport, and oil, to combine it with the oil so that it meets international standard. And when they went to the London Arbitration Court, Malcolm Jones won his case, and the OAS was ordered to pay Malcolm Jones legal fees, right? But I believe that he used that as an excuse, because the fact of the matter was that the SVNA board had said, let's restructure, and we left it for 4 years. For 4 years, just sitting down there collecting rust.
And again, when you analyze these issues, Karen, you can easily understand why people feel today, a lot of them, as they do about this administration. Those things will give you a solid foundational explanations for why people may be viewing the government very differently to when they elected them today.
And can I just say that? Can I just say that's exactly why when they like Gigi, when he now come out, how people had a little shift in position after a while, after they had a little while to assess, because I was one of those who would have, if I was in St. Mary's party, I would have parked the way for Moses to pass.
Oh, I see. What I can say, this is your show and you would always have your way. So
this is my favorite show, because listen to me, my family, when I argue my family, I get real vexed, and then I even go as far as, if I'm in my own home, I say this is my home, and I could talk as long as I want to talk, because it's my home.
You are the queen there, Mr. Manning.
And if you don't like it,
I am the king in my home.
And if you don't like it, leave. One of them has done that already. The one of them has left. But I ran behind him and told him to come back.
Oh, so you're flexible. What when
I see you take me on and you get back and you leave my house, I run outside. I say, come out, boy, you mustn't take me so serious. Come and sit down. But it's still my home. But sit down.
Nothing changed. Perhaps only a tone, but you will still have your way.
That is right.
That's it. You're the queen there, Karen. That's your home. I try to be the king of mine sometimes. But it isn't as easy as you have it. Yeah.
Next time you must talk about the essay, because that's really.
It was a terrible.
And I think we have to give a lot of the blame on the government. But I have a theory. I want you to hesitate just before we go. I know we have 4 or 5 minutes, but and I'm saying this theory without any scientific basis for saying it. It's just like you have a hypothesis. So it bothered me. Why is it that certain schools, especially Hindu, the Muslim schools, their children do so well in SE? I did something for the Sanata Diamond on last week Saturday, and so I got a little insight from talking to 2 of the principals. But you know what I think part of the reason is? Just a part of the reason is that in Trinidad and Tobago, if you are a Hindu, you all you either as a Hindu, as an Indian, you either belong to mostly belong to either the Muslim religion, or you belong to the Hindu religion, and they collectively in their denominational schools are very, very serious about promoting their religion and their education for their children. Now, when it comes to the Christian religions, is Roman Catholic, is Anglican, is Presbyterian,
Methodist.
is Methodist. So there is not that commonality of purpose that I see and I experience among either if you are from the Hindu
Muslim
or Muslim,
yeah.
Because there's something that galvanizes them all together to a common purpose. Whereas if you are from St. Joseph Convent, Port of Spain, you want to feel that you're better than Bishop Anstey High School girls or better than Holy Name Convent. You understand? We competing with each other rather than coming together as Christians to find, because they are very, very strong. They are very, very, very strong. And the other thing I learned is that there's teachers were former students of their own school. So there's a commitment to the religion, to the school. I remember when I used to live in the East, when the school, Lakshmi Girls High School, was only went up to Form 5. And someone that I knew there, she used to teach there, they were buying bricks. You had to buy how many bricks, buying bricks, build the school up. And I saying, okay, I hope they do okay. Lakshmi Girls High School is one of the top schools now in Trinidad and Tobago.
This is on the eastern main road in St. Augustine?
Absolutely. And those days, they did not have a Form 6 because a girl that I became very friendly with when I did law, she had to leave Lakshmi Girls and go to St. Joseph Convent, St. Joseph, to do her Form 6. What I'm trying to tell you is their religions are very homogeneous. Our religions do not lend itself to that. And I think that is part of the weakness that's a part of a thing. But in conclusion on my point, you did not have to be a rocket scientist or a seer to know that there were too many children put at risk. And let me tell you, I will go to 30% you knew were getting through. You know why? Because they were going to the private schools, as I would send my grandchild. They're going to the private schools. Their parents, one of the parents would be at home. They were getting this teaching that one would expect. So them getting into the top 30% schools is no surprise. It's the last 40 and 50% that the government should have paid attention to, because those were the ones that were the most at risk. Those are the top. Their parents and schools were going to make sure that they did not fail.
I agree.
And the government
must have an idea in terms of where their concentration should be applied.
It was obvious where you think if your child going to get into St. Joseph Convent, most of the time the feeder school is Maria Regina. You understand? We know it. I know the system. We know the system, right? Yeah. So what I am saying is that these children do not go to government primary schools. These children go to
put a plug in for Sacred Hearts. My daughter went
there. Yeah, my older brothers and sisters did, but I'm making a general statement.
I know that, That's what I was making a plug, Karen. Just a plug.
Okay, very good. So I made Cadbury, now you made Sacred Hearts. Very good. But the point we're making is this. 30%.
Karen, don't try to put me out before you make your point, I know if I run off, I hope you call me back and tell me, stay. Stay.
Don't go. I see how nice I'm talking to you now. Don't go.
That's nice, Karen. It's nice, both the pricey side and this nice side. They're both wonderful.
Nice side.
I say whichever one you use, I ain't going anywhere.
So the point we're making, though, Richard, and all joking aside, there's a 30% you did not have to worry about, because the parents, the school system will take care of them. It is the 50% that the Ministry of Education, if they had to get a laptop for every child, if they had to set up a system, they had to have a system. So to come and tell me after the fact that more than 50% make less than 50%, I know that less than 50% is not the 30% that I'm talking about. And they knew that before. And they were failing in their duty to see after those 50%. And coming after the fact and talking about
them to have a different expectation than that in advance. Which means I'm saying they knew this outcome was highly likely. They knew.
This is it.
And
they knew.
Of course, and what did you do having had that belief that this is what the outcome was going to be? You did nothing and now you want to act surprised. Come on. You knew it and you could have done something differently.
You could have done something differently.
Yeah.
Instead of buying another vehicle for national security, right? Or some other thing that you're putting on, then you could have gotten IDB. Somebody would have lent you the money. You would have been able to get the money.
We have a windfall of money. You can hire some other teachers to stay in the classes a little longer, to offer more lessons and make sure and tell parents, keep the children
and
there.
set up community centers.
You concentrate on the schools. Your child going here, we are saying your child is one in the group that is at risk. And we want to make sure, bring your children out.
And we're going to provide them with breakfast and lunch, so they have nutritional.
Mr. Manning, as he said.
And you know why it is wrong too? Because it didn't last for a month. It was 2 years. So you telling me you sat on there for 2 years and didn't realize the children going to Maria Regina and all of those private schools, their parents are going to see after them. And they will make sure they get
waiting to the government to determine if the children will be successful or not. They're
not
waiting on government for that.
It's true, because they're going to the private
you need to go after the children where the parents hoping by the child going to that school, they hope they turn out good. And the government need to be concentrating there.
So next week we must ask, look who you need to invite on your show besides me. The Minister of Education, to ask her those questions. Gatsby Dolly. And on another show, you need to ask the OWTU man. I mean, when he writing, it was on the wall. Why you so quiet?
OWTU man, as you put it, for Monday. I'll talk to management and see if they get him on. Because it's very urgent. That one deals with a lot of money.
And for us to understand. We want to understand.
Let's bring on Mr. Ray. We'll look at the minister the week after.
Yes, it's 6:04.
Karen, that mean you're ready to leave?
As you turn on and say, I has to leave.
Well, then again, Daddy, myself, we have to wait and hold on again until. But you know, it's a good news today, Karen. Today's Tuesday. We got to wait so long.
You have to wait long. Right around the corner.
Wouldn't be that tough. It would be hard to endure. Karen, good. Monday.
Bye-bye. See you all and have a good rest of the week.
Ruben,
David, Mark, Richard, everybody, and of course your listeners and viewers.
Yes. It's been a pleasure. Bye-bye.
Very nice again as usual. I had to call him Miss Feisty Karen. Have a good day, Karen.
I'm gone.
All right, take it easy.
Okay, bye-bye. Richard, you go straight to the 6 o'clock news.
Let's do that.
Okay, we coming back, folks, on the other side of this.
Power 102 Digital.
Yeah.
We sound like home. Power 102 Digital. Streaming 24/7 on power102fm.com and on the Power 102 Digital app.